we're a government contractor, so everything we do is with the government. So everything has to be organized, has to be prepared properly, communicating properly with contracting officers.
Welcome to Drop and Give Me 20, where you learn keys to entrepreneurial success as Lindsey Germono interviews business owners with military backgrounds on what works and what doesn't. Listen as they focus on the stories, both challenges and wins, that military entrepreneurs have faced in growing their businesses.
Welcome to another episode of Drop and Give Me 20. I am your host, Lindsey Germono. I am here today with Anthony Williams of SAW Contracting. Hey, Anthony.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Outstanding.
So for those that don't know us, we're really good friends, like for real in real life. So we can act like
not fake friends, real friends.
Yeah, we hang out for real, not just say we're going to hang out and then never do and make excuses. So I invited you onto the podcast because of your background as prior Army. And it's weird because you and I have actually never talked about that. I don't know why. I think it's just whenever we're together, there's the girls side and then the boys go hang out. So I'm actually going to learn a lot that I probably should know. So for those that are listening, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days and of course, your time in the Army.
Well, let's start with my Army time. So as you know, I graduated from ODU in 2000 and did the Army ROTC program there, which was a great program. It's one of the strongest, actually, ROTC programs in the country now. And, back in 2000, obviously, there was no deployments and things like that. So I went to officer school for the Engineer Corps, which is where I was branched, and then was stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, which was actually my number one choice. And that was a great place to be. Being out in the mountains, growing up around here where you have beaches and all of that, it was a little bit of a culture shock to be at Fort Carson, Colorado. But I had a great time there. Obviously, we all know about the 9/11 and everything that happened there and the deployment started. So 2003, we actually deployed to Iraq in the ground war, not in the main wave, but kind of the follow-on wave. And that was a 10-month tour. And I think what was really challenging about that one is it was in the very beginning, so there was no support system in terms of, power, air conditioning, internet, phones, all those things that we're used to over here is pretty much like the Wild Wild West. Even the protocol of what you're supposed to do there, because once we got in there, we had already won the war. So, we really didn't know what to do. And that was, I think, not just for me and for the unit I was with, that was a huge learning experience about, going to war and what war was supposed to be like and what it wasn't. And then obviously insurgency and things like that, it just took a huge turn of fighting militants, people who aren't in enemy uniforms. So when I got back from that tour, it was 2004, I actually came off of active duty and moved back home to Virginia Beach and started working for an engineering firm. And I stayed in the reserves and I was teaching ROTC at Norfolk State, and not even, I would say, 6 months from the time I got back, I got orders to remobilize and to go back to Iraq. And the mission completely was different on that. It was less combat. This mission was about instructing the Iraqi army. So the year that I was redeployed back in the States, the U.S. Army started training Iraqis to kind of help them get back on their feet and take over their own country. And I don't know who really affiliated sending ROTC instructors over there to train their army, but that kind of was the reasoning behind it. And so on the second tour in 2005, when we left, that ended up being a 15-month tour, which was kind of the backbreaker for me in terms of trying to have a 20-year Army career, because at that point, just being gone so long, and when we came back, it didn't really seem like there was going to be an end to these deployments. On that deployment in particular, that was a little bit better. There was more of a logistical structure there where I was able to call home and talk to family and friends. We had internet there. We had gyms. We had good mess halls for food. And basically for that 15 months, I was with the Special Forces, and we basically trained the Iraqi army to help them get back on their feet. So I came back from that tour in 2006, and instead of going back to the engineering firm that I had been with for the few months that I was home in between tours, I went and worked with a construction company. So this is in 2006, this is a really good time in the economy where car industry is booming, real estate industry is booming. I mean, manufacturing, construction, it's all booming in 2006. So I became an assistant project manager there, and I kind of learned construction. I was out in the field, learning how construction works and subcontracting and all that. And then after a couple of years, I moved to the office, and eventually, after a few more years, became a project manager. And after, I would say, 6 to 6.5 years of working there, I felt like I should start a company. And also on that, I had gone back and got my MBA. So at ODU. So that gave me a lot of business perspective in there. And after about 6.5 years, when I got the MBA and graduated, I left that company and started the construction company that I own right now. And that was in 2014, January 1st, 2014. So we are just now passing the 3-year mark, and it's been a great, we've been successful. We've been lucky on some things. We've worked hard, but the company right now is financially strong. And even though the economy is a little bit still tight in the construction industry, it's still, the company is doing well because of certain certifications that we have and just kind of the way that we do business. So that's pretty much from 2000 to right now.
There's a lot of stuff that happened in between then. You got married, you had vacations and traveling and homes and all that stuff too. So I want to ask you, in 2000, that's when you joined the Army ROTC?
Right. Well, actually, I went to college in 95. So I originally enlisted, and then I went into ROTC in like 1997.
Okay. At that
graduated.
Point, when you were going into the ROTC or, even enlisting, did you know that you wanted to open up your own business one day?
No, not at all. Not at that time. I'm 22 years old. At that time, I just wanted to travel the world. I grew up here. I went to college here. I hadn't really traveled at all. So, this was the opportunity to get out and see different parts of the country and different parts of the world. So, that hadn't even crossed my mind at that point.
I think that's okay. So a lot of folks are hesitant or maybe even insecure because they get asked that question and they feel like they should say like, yeah, I always wanted to open my own, successful business and et cetera. But I think I'm like you, like at some point along the way, you just go, you know what, I think I want to do this now, and it's because of what experiences you're having at that time. You had worked with the construction company before, so you obviously had that experience. In your opinion, what in the military transferred over into your business today? Like what things did you do either when you were, deployed or even just, in the States that you find that you use today? Yeah,
there's a lot of good habits that obviously the military trains you on that we use as protocols and procedures in our company. A lot of it it's a lot about discipline and it's a lot about documentation. So obviously we're a government contractor, so everything we do is with the government. So everything has to be organized, has to be prepared properly, communicating properly with contracting officers. All those things are pretty much standard qualities of an Army officer, or even not even an Army officer. Just if you're in the military period, there's a lifestyle that you learn to live about discipline and integrity and just doing the right thing. So, a lot of our documentation practices, for instance, like the way that we do yearly evaluations of our employees. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of companies do that, or maybe they kind of half-ass it, but, we do it kind of the way that the Army did it, where every year you sat down with an evaluator, your rater, and you talked about things that you need to sustain, things that you can improve on and how to move forward. So I think one of the biggest things with the company for me right now is the people that are my employees are really kind of the most important thing for me, because it's hard to find talent out there, especially in construction. Even though there's a lot of layoffs and moving of people, I want to keep the people that I have. And I think part of that is communicating with them, letting them communicate with me freely. And, that was another thing with the Army is even though there was a chain of command, there was two-way communication where they could talk to superiors and superiors could talk to subordinates. So those are a lot of the protocols that during my Army time that we kind of have here.
What would you tell yourself, or 1997, or actually, I guess, even after your deployments, like if you were at that point thinking about launching your own business, coming into the world of construction, is there any piece of advice that you would tell yourself looking back now?
Yeah, I think two things really stand out for me. One is financial. You can't start a business and then expect to take huge salaries because you're just taking money out of the company at that point. You're taking equity from the company. So saving the money up properly, properly so that you have kind of this pool of money that you're going to chip away from to pay your personal bills. If you don't have a stash and you expect to take money from the company right away, it's never going to work because the company's not going to be fully profitable right off the bat. It just can't be. There's a period of time where you have to, find office space or find supplies, goods, get customers. I mean, there's a time there that you're not going to get any revenue, and that's the time that you got to support yourself financially and your family.
Do you remember when I think I can remember when you and I were hanging out at some point, and I was like, I just paid myself for like the first time, and I remember being like, Anthony, I just paid myself for the first time, and you were like, yeah, isn't it great? Like finally, and it was well past the part that I had hoped to have paid myself, and it certainly wasn't anything to live off of, but that moment.
Exactly, and that's how it was, I believe, 10 months before I paid myself, and I only paid myself because I had to hire employees, and by the regulation, I have to be the highest paid employee. So I think that planning, figuring out how long do you want to go without getting paid, how much money will that nest egg need to be, and then the second thing for me, the big one was just market research. So you have to be an expert in your field, whatever it is you want to do, whether it's selling ice cream cones or construction or whatever it is. If you're going to start a business in that industry or that market sector, you need to know everything about it. You need to know your competitors. You need to know your SWOT analysis. I mean, there's, just a lot of things that go into it. Because if you don't know the market and you don't know the competitors in the industry, you can't be successful. So the two things that I think if you want to start the company, those are the two things most importantly to me that you have to get taken care of in order to launch. Would you ever consider opening up an ice cream business because you love ice cream? Well, that is one of the things that I love. I mean, that's what came to mind. Isn't that bad? It wasn't construction that came to mind. It was ice cream business. And the number two business obviously would be opening some kind of dog rescue agency because you know how I am with dogs. Amen. I know that. I think it's funny. Maybe we should talk about that one day because I would be well into the opening up. I just want to rescue dogs and watch them play all day. I don't care about anything else. I tell you, I think really this company that I have now is really a conduit to me doing that. I mean, it's something I've thought about a lot, not necessarily opening my own rescue agency or anything like that, but having the money and the means to donate and get more involved in that stuff because I don't know what it is about dogs. Well, everybody should have their cause. Everybody should have the thing that they're passionate about, whether it's that or kids or, whatever that it is. It should be something. And I think that that's a differentiator. And you talked about market research and understanding your competitors. That's also a part of what separates you from your competition. In your industry, and we've talked about this too, it's very difficult because you are a government entity. You're not selling widgets to you're not selling ice cream to someone standing on the side of the street. But not yet. But that doesn't mean, not yet here, but have a dog and have some ice cream. I think what's really cool is that you still look at that, even though you're a government, you're a contractor that works with government bids. You're not working with residential or your average Joe Schmo, but you're still thinking about those types of things that make your business feel good. So I dig that. Talk to me now that we're kind of all around the world with our conversation. Do you have people who work for you that have been in the military, employees or anything? No, ironically, they aren't. The folks that I have now, they're just seasoned construction personnel. Okay. And do you have any obstacles in communicating with them, from civilian and military, or do you maybe just not experience that at all? No, I mean, it is a little odd because the company is a service disabled veteran-owned business and minority-owned. But, that is the pool of talent to hire is very limited in construction. So, I would love to hire all veterans, but construction is a weird industry where the more experience you have, obviously, the more marketable you are. So it's hard to, if you're leaving the military, it's hard to just jump right into construction. You kind of have to know it. You kind of have to learn about it. Wouldn't you agree that that's the case in anything? You can't just jump out of the military and go right full speed ahead. You should be doing that preparation. Yeah, that's true. That's true too. I mean, there's some trades that are, like a lot of electronics type stuff and technology type stuff, that transfers directly from military to civilian.
What would you tell somebody who's active duty that's currently listening to this that's wanting to start their own construction business?
I mean, the same two items that I said before, those are your main priority. Those are your main action items.
The financial and the market research.
Yeah, get that done and then figure out what you want to do. And it really is just, after that, it's just hard work. That's all it is. It's making connections. It's networking. It's knowing the right people. And I mean, that's really it. Having a good, strong support team also, personally and professionally. And when I say that, I mean, if you're married, your spouse, your kids, whoever it is, having that strength, because, Tony was very supportive of what I did. I mean, I left a 6-figure paying job to start this company. And she never even flinched about me leaving and starting. She knew that we had planned for 2 years of not having any money. So, I mean, this was, Tony with her traveling and her vacations, this was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then just having the bravery to just jump and do it. It's kind of scary because, you're starting your own company and then you have employees and the employees' lives are dependent on how successful you are. So I would say as long as you're prepared. See, the military already prepares you in terms of executing and planning and all that, but being financially prepared and having the bravery to do it, and it'll work.
I can't think of anybody better, prepared than someone coming out of the Army. So I appreciate your service and want to thank you for that. And I want to invite those that are listening to connect with you. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, tell us where to find you on social media.
Yeah, if you go to our website, saulcontracting.com, we have 3 links there for our YouTube channel. You can search Saul Contracting on YouTube. We have a channel there that has drone videos and a lot of aerial photos of our construction project. On LinkedIn, if you look up Saul Contracting, you'll see me there. And on Facebook, it's /Saul Contracting.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And we'll have to have another conversation about this ice cream dog business. And maybe we can get that going on the side. Just a little side hustle.
I'll get it going right now. I'm already got the lead on it.
I know some dogs that wouldn't mind being our mascots too.
Yeah, I'm already eating all the profits of the ice cream company. And I've already adopted 5 dogs just in the time we've been talking.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the Drop and Give Me 20 podcast. And if you guys are listening, please do reach out to Anthony. He's a very dear friend of mine, but he's also an excellent businessman. I've learned a lot from him. I've had to reach out to Anthony a few times ago. I'm at this phase now. What do I do? So he's excellent. And thank you, Anthony, again for your service. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. And if anyone has any questions or they want to contact me, I'll be glad to help.
Awesome. All right. Well, you take care. Have a good day.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Drop and Give Me 20, brought to you by Germono Advertising Company in Norfolk, Virginia. Please visit our podcast in iTunes, click on subscribe, and leave us a review. Your support goes a long way. When you subscribe and leave reviews, it helps the guests on our show as well. Jump in and let us know what you think. You can also follow all of our guests on the Drop and Give Me 20 Facebook page. We have Instagram and Twitter. Those handles are Give Me 20 Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Germono, and I appreciate you listening to the show.